Welcome everyone to our Facebook Live today for MySewnet on the Embellish tab. We're going to have a lot of fun with that today, and we do need to do a little bit of housekeeping before we get started, however. Those of you who have been on these Facebook Lives in the past know that they will be recorded so that you can watch them later. Most, if not all, also end up on YouTube eventually. And we did want to caution you that if you see anything in the chat or comment field where you see a link and somebody is wanting you to click on it to access the video and asking you for money, that is just a spammer. We try to get rid of them as quickly as possible, but you know the way the internet works. So our Facebook Lives are free. You don't have to pay anything. Just sit back, relax, and we'll have a good time. So today we're going to talk about, as I said, the Embellish tab, but there is a certain amount of confusion over the new MySewnet platform. So I wanted to go over a few things real briefly about that, and then we'll jump right into the Embellish tab. So MySewnet is the latest version of our software, and it comes in two basic versions. One is the box version, which you would purchase it and use it just like you have our other software in the past. And then there's the online subscription version, which is a month-to-month, although you can buy a year and get a discount. It is an online subscription to the software. And so it's it's the same software, but you just get it in different ways, and there's different payment schedules. If you do have the online subscription, you get the embroidery design library for free with the online subscription, which currently is over 7,000 designs, and they are adding to it all the time. So that is a huge resource, and one of the reasons why I like the online subscription. But it's all up to you, whichever way you want to go. Your local dealer can fill you in on all of the different ins and outs. So we are going to talk about, as I said, the Embellish tab. And the software has different levels, just like it had previously in the past. We used to have extra and embroidery and ultra, and now we have the box version. Has you have a basic version, then in the box version there is silver, gold, and then platinum, and in the subscription service there's just silver and platinum. Now in the gold version you will have the Embellish tab, and you will be able to do decoration designs, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But if you bump up to the platinum version in both the boxed and the subscription service version, you also get a wizard that helps you make your own ribbon embroidery designs. Now, you may wonder what a ribbon embroidery is. It is a design that has the instructions embedded in it to instruct the ribbon embroidery attachment to embroider ribbon right on your project. Like this shirt has some ribbon embroidery right here, and the ribbon embroidery unit looks like this. So it's pretty slick. It slips into your machine. You've previously wrapped ribbon around this central ring, and it just allots the ribbon out and makes this really cool textured embroidery. So I'm going to show you how to do add decorations to your embroidery projects, as well as ribbon as a decoration. Before we get into that, though, I want to go over a few resources that we have for the MySewnet software. So I'm going to share my screen, and you will temporarily see some crazy stuff on the screen before my screen really shares, so just disregard that for 15 seconds. Okay, so here is the MySewnet page. And on the MySewnet page, if you click on the link at the top that says Knowledge Center, then it goes over how you first set up your machine, how you get a MySewnet account. And then as you keep scrolling down, there are a lot of FAQs, the most frequently asked questions, like how do I upgrade from my previous software? Is my machine compatible? Can I cancel at any time? So on and so forth. Then when you go down a little bit further, you will see various projects or classes done by the Vantage guys. And also there are some women as well. And each is a fully realized project. If you click on the read more, you will see a link where you can download the written lesson. And if you go down a little bit further, you will see a video where you can watch the Windows version or the Mac version of the software. Now, what I would recommend if you're trying to learn new skills is that even if you say are not crazy about the luggage tag, although I am, or you're not crazy about the chenille super design or the freestanding lace, work through the project anyway, because the projects are designed so that you add to your skill set. And it may not be to your taste. However, you don't have to stitch it out, although that's a learning experience also. But if you just work through doing the project, you will add on to your skills. Now, down at the very bottom of the page, you can sign up for the newsletter and you will get notified when there are new projects. Today, I got an email, one of the newsletters also that told me about some information about learning more about Encore and also learning more about the Modify tab. So having the newsletter is a good thing. I mean, if you're not in the mood, you can always delete it, but there might be a really cool project that you would want to do. Okay, so that's some basic information. Now I'm going to get into MySewnet itself. So when I open up MySewnet, for those of you that the MySewnet software version, this latest version might be new to you, you're just sort of trying this out and seeing if it's for you. This is the first screen that will open up when you have the gold or platinum version. And if you have the basic or if you have the silver version, you won't see all these wizards here. And my feeling about the MySewnet software is that it's easier to use. When I first was starting to use it, I wondered whether I was going to like it. And I feel like it is much more user-friendly and easier to navigate. So the first thing you do probably in starting a new project is you could go down and find the wizard you want to use, say, if you wanted to do the quilt block. But we're just going to go to blank canvas. And then you choose your hoop size. Right now, I have a 260 by 260 hoop, which is basically about a 10 by 10. It's our quilter's hoop, sort of relatively new in our lineup. And the first thing I'm going to do is go look across the top and look for embellish. So I'm going to click on the embellish tab. Now my software is the platinum version. So I have both the ribbon area where I can create ribbon designs, and then I have this area where I can create decorations. And if I had the gold version, you would see only this part here. You would not see the ribbon area. You have to have the platinum version to have the ribbon design wizard. So what are the decorations? What these are basically are stitched placeholders for a variety of different types of decorative items that you could place on your project. And they could be added to an existing design, or they could create their own design all by themselves. And you could start out with using the decoration super design. So I'm going to click on that. And there are a series of different categories. There's climate, faces, flowers and leaves, holidays, letters and numbers, miscellaneous, and also symbols. So let's go back to flowers and flowers and leaves. So these all are kind of representing different types of beads for the most part. Although they could be sequins, they could be little metal brads. So I'm just going to pick one at random and put that on my embroidery field. And if I right click over here, I can see the size of the beads that were utilized to make this design. And I could go in by clicking on that and changing the bead type. So there are many, many different types of beads in here and different decorations. There's seed beads and bugle beads and sequins of different shapes and certainly different colors, and some that are raised. You see there's all sorts of different decorative items. And when you do choose your bead or decorative item, you can also go over and change the color. You can change the size as well. So I'm going to click OK. So now we have these bigger beads because the original design had the smaller beads and I changed them to the bigger beads. So you do have the ability to edit these super designs. And by the way, this little symbol means that it is a decoration as opposed to some other type of, super design. And because this is a super design, it has the green handles around it, which means that you can size it quite a bit. You can make it quite a lot larger and quite a lot smaller. However, the beads don't change in size. So as it gets bigger, the beads are further apart. And then as it gets smaller, they're closer together. So you have to bear that in mind. So that's the super designs. I'm going to get rid of this. Now you can also go in, and there are a number of shapes here that you can use to make your own beaded design. And I like to use the circle because of the fact that if I use a circle or if I use straight lines, if I use things that don't have really sharp angles, I can sew this. After I've done my embroidery, I can use the guide to sew this with my bead foot with the circular attachment. And I'll show you what I mean here. So I have my circular attachment here, which is something that you would get, brand specific to your machine. And the way that it works is it sits into a couple of grooves on your stitch plate, and your fabric gets placed on top of it, and you put the push pin through the center of your circle, and your circle diameter is made larger by pushing the slider out and bringing it back. So using this with the beading foot means that you can get those beads stitched down very quickly rather than doing it by hand. Here's an example. I'm going to show you how I made this. The circular beads here were done with the circular attachment with the beading foot. This design was made in embroidery. This ribbon design was made in embroidery, and all the other embroidery was done in embroidery. But the beaded part is when you use the Embellish tab, it's just going to stitch down placeholders. It's not going to stitch down the bead itself. So we'll come back to this as I work through the information you would need to make it. Oh, and there's all sorts of different beads that you can get. If you're going to use the beaded foot and make a line of beads or a circle of beads, you want them on a string. And depending upon the diameter of the beads, you will need to take that into account with whichever bead foot you use. Depending upon your brand, there's a mini bead foot and then a bigger bead foot. So you have to look at the diameter. Okay, so going back to the software. Again, you're going to see the crazy screen in the middle till I get to the software. Okay, so if I wanted to make a circle of beads, we have these shapes here. I would go in, I would choose the circle, and then I just click on Draw Shape. Then I pick the type of bead that I want to use. Like, let's choose a different bead. Or let's choose a sequin. And now let's choose a bead. So we'll go and get one of these beads up here, pick a nice color, and we'll stick with, let's go with 4 millimeters, and then click OK. So now we have our circles that will be marked on our project, but we can, because it's a super, kind of like a super design, you can make it bigger, you know, and change it to an oval if you want. But if you want to use the circular attachment, you need to keep it a circle. And then you right click and click on finish placing shape. And now you have your circle of beads. And as I said, what the embroidery design is going to do is it's going to just stitch placeholders here. You're just basically going to see little dots in a circle so that when you get the rest of your embroidery done, you can use your circular attachment to sew your beads down. Or if you had lines of beads, you could use a just the bead foot and stitch your bead line along that line, or curvy lines, that kind of thing. Now we when we're happy with it, let's make it a little bit bigger. When I'm happy with it, I click on I right click, and I just click away from it so that I'm done with this circle of beads. And I could place individual beads if I wanted, but I think what I'm going to do is I am going to actually make this a little bit smaller and then put a design in the center. So I'll sort of work through how I made that pendant that I just showed you. So I went in and I found a design that comes with the MySewnet software to plop in the middle of that design. So I'm going to go back to this screen. What I did here is I clicked on File. That takes me back to this screen. Then I click on Insert. And then I have to navigate to whatever directory I have the designs in. And my MySewnet designs are in my MySewnet directory inside the sample folder, inside the embroidery, inside a stitch. So if I went to Documents, I would click on MySewnet. I would click on Samples, Embroidery, Stitch, and then I'm going to grab this design. And so I've got that in the middle. So now I've got placeholders for beads on the outside. I've got my design in the center. I can start placing individual beads around this central design. So I'll go back and pick maybe a bigger bead in a different color. And then I'm just going to left click where I want to place them. And again, it will just place a placeholder. It's not stitching down the bead. When I'm done, I'm going to right click, finish placing individual, click on that. And then I've got these beads over here where I kind of messed up. I can correct that by going to Select and select this bead. I'm going to right click and delete it. And then I'm going to click on this one and just move it ever so slightly over there. Now, I'm going to right click and left click on Finish Selecting Decoration. And I could go back and change the positions of any of these beads if I wanted to by clicking on Select. I could click on this button down here to zoom into that area if I wanted to make sure that they are all spaced in an appropriate way and look at it very, much more closely. But I'm just going to go back to the full view. So now I have this circle around the outside, and I could now, instead of adding beads, I could add ribbon to this design, which is what I did with that project that I just showed you. And the ribbon design area is fairly similar to the way the decoration area worked, in that we've got super designs, we have shapes, and what I didn't go over actually is drawing lines. So the drawing line function on the decoration tabs works in basically the same way as a ribbon, but we might as well draw lines here. So you can draw lines of beads in two different ways. You can do freehand if you are have a steady hand, I would say. So I'm going to pick a smaller bead, pick the color, and probably, I mean, I really would not do freehand unless I had some sort of pad where I could use a stylus. I am not very good with the mouse, as you will see as I draw this. When you go to draw, you push down the left mouse button and you hold it down and you draw your shape, and you can see it looks like a 5-year-old is doing this. Not very attractive. But if I had a stylus and a pad of some sort, it would be better. But maybe you want this, kind of funky bead line. Depends on what you're going for. So that's how you can draw a line. Now I'm going to go to the reverse button to get that off my project. And now I'm going to go back to draw line and do lines the way that I would typically do, which is point lines. With point lines, you have a much greater ability to edit the lines when something's a bit wonky. So we'll choose a glass bead, click on OK. So I could go in and, say I wanted to make this kind of like have rays like a sun. I could just keep. Now, if I just click, it's going to be a soft curve. But if I click and hold down the Shift key, then I'll get a right angle. So if I want these to be sharp curves, I want to hold down the Shift key as I'm doing this. But you see, I can hold down the left mouse button and edit these, the location of these squares, and make it a little bit more uniform and more like what I had in mind than I could with just drawing the line. So I'm not going to do the whole thing. I'm just going to do part, and then I'm going to right click to tell the program I'm done. And now I have this, I didn't right click fully. Okay, so let's go back one. There, we got rid of that. Right click, finish placing line. So now I have this beaded line that I could have going all the way around my circle if I so desired. But I am going to get rid of that line, and we are going to move on to the ribbon embroidery area. So the ribbon embroidery area is similar to the, as I said, to the doing these decorations. There are super designs, animals, climate, floral, hearts, miscellaneous, ornaments. These could be frames. Now take a look at this cat here. I'm going to show you a project I made with the cat that I think is rather cute. Close, let me grab that. I thought I had it out, but I don't, so I can't show it to you after all. That got packed into my travel bag the last time I went out to teach. But suffice to say, that cat could be a cute project. So going back to the ribbon super designs, you could choose one of those designs to place in this project, or you could choose a shape. What I did with my project is I went in and I chose a star. In here, I chose this star. And when you choose your shape, and then you click on Draw Shape. Oh, let's see if we've got some questions here. And I neglected to see those. I hope they haven't been up very long. One question is there a burp cloth shape? Goes narrow in the middle, a bean shape. Now, I'm wondering if you mean in the decorations or in the ribbon. Well, let's see what we have as far as shapes. I've never thought about a burp cloth shape. So right now I had selected the ribbon embroidery, and I could choose any color for the ribbon. And I tend to go down to the smallest size ribbon more often than not, because I want to more often than not, fill it up with a lot of ribbon. I feel like it works better. But if you had some really wide ribbon, you might want to go a little bit wider than 5. So let's go back to our shapes here to look for a burp cloth. Let's see. So narrow in the middle, a bean shape. Well, these shapes can be altered. Let me come back to that question. And after I finish the star, and I'll show you how you might be able to make your own somewhat burp cloth shape. So let's see. So now I had clicked on over here, draw shape to form my star. So I kind of had the idea of a star here, but I want it to be much bigger. So I'm going to drag the corners. And I'm seeing that I made my circle too large. I need to make it a little bit smaller in order to fit everything in the hoop. So I'm going to go back and draw my star again. Now, as you can see on this screen, there is this green square. That is the limit of where I can go with the ribbon embroidery because of the fact that the ribbon embroidery attachment is large and it cannot occupy, it can't go beyond this border. So I am going to make it just a little bit bigger. It probably just so it will fit in here, but I would have to make some adjustments to actually stitch this out, but at least you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to right click, finish placing shape. Now I have a ribbon embroidery around with the central embroidery in the middle. Now you had asked about a burp cloth shape. So let's see if we can find something that looks, you know what, I think I'm going to finish this and then come back to the burp cloth issue. Okay, so I now have my beads and both in a circle and the individually placed beads, and then I have this ribbon embroidery created. What I then did on my project, I'm going to stop sharing so you can see a little closer and explain some things. So I kind of went with a Jewish theme for this project because of the fact that I am Jewish, and this is sort of the middle of our high holy days in the fall. And so I made this holiday project, and this is a Jewish star. And just so you know, I went into the fonts, and there is a font that sort of looks like faux Hebrew, you know, looks sort of Hebrew-ish, but you know, a non-Hebrew speaking person could read it. It says Happy Holidays. There is a font that is actual Hebrew letters, in which case for Happy Holidays, I would have put Chag Sameach, and that means Happy Holidays. Or I could be thinking ahead to Hanukkah. I could have put Happy Hanukkah, and that would be Chag, it would be Chag Hanukkah, is what it would be in Hebrew. But that's neither here nor there for most of you. You don't care one way or the other. But I do have my beads that I sewed on with the beading foot and the circular attachment. And then these individual beads, I used the placement stitches and did those by hand. And I also added some little small super designs to fill in the back area. And once I had created this design, I took it into the Quilt Block Wizard, and this is actually stippled and quilted together in the background. And if you like making these kind of things where you're, you know, a wall hanging where you have a hanger, these hangers can be quite expensive. But I found a very inexpensive way to make small wall hangings. This is just a wooden dowel, and you can buy these little finials that fit on the end. And I spray painted it black, and I think it looks rather nice. So it was, like I said, very inexpensive way to hang a small wall hanging like that. So let's see what we're doing with questions here. The burp cloth shape, I used to do baptismal bibs and digitized scallops around the shape. So I'm still not quite knowing what you want to do with this, like what you're thinking that shape would do for you. Like, are you, because the shapes are either made from beads, decorations, or they're made from ribbon. I don't know how that would work with a burp cloth, or I'm sorry, but I'm not quite understanding what you want to do. Then the second question was, are there introductory videos to learn about MySewnet software? I'm sure there are on the MySewnet channel, and I think the best way to learn the software is to, with these videos, you follow along for maybe 5 minutes. Just watch for 5 minutes, stop it, open up your computer with the MySewnet software and duplicate what you just saw. It might be 3 steps, maybe might be 1 step. And then once you know where you are, like you've done that 1 or 2 or 3 steps, then you watch maybe 5 more minutes, go back to your computer and do the 1, 2, or 3 steps, as much as you can retain, and keep going until you finish that project. Then what you'll do is you'll try to do it without watching the video. And probably what will happen is you'll get through maybe a third of the video and you'll have to, go back to that point where you lost yourself and remember how to do it. And then if you do it enough, eventually you'll be able to do it without the video and we all have learned a new skill. But it does take time. It takes a lot of repetition. It takes, I think, doing it frequently. I found for me, when I wanted to learn the software, it worked much better if I did it. I devoted 15 to 20 minutes a day rather than doing 2 hours on the weekend, because I would forget what I learned part of what I learned by the next weekend. With doing a little bit every day, eventually I built my skills. Okay, see if there's any other questions here. No, that's it so far. If you want to elaborate on what you're thinking about the baptismal scallops the baptismal bibs, what you would do with ribbon and beads, let me know. I'm not quite sure how those two would, you've got the bib shape, but why would you have that in ribbon? So I'm not quite sure what you're asking. Okay, so next project. I am going to go back and share my screen. So you're going to see a little crazy screen for a minute. And then go back into the software. So at this point, when I had this shape here, then I went in and I grabbed some super designs to put in those corners. We have a lot of these decorative designs, and there are hundreds and hundreds of designs that you can pull in and add, like any of these, for instance, could fill in these corners here. And then I went into letter and found the font that I wanted to add the sort of Hebrew-ish looking wording. It's in here somewhere. Here we go. Here's your actual Hebrew, and this is the font I use, Mandala, that looks a little bit like Hebrew. Okay, so now totally different project. I'm going to get rid of this stuff. So what I did is I clicked on the top, I held down the shift key, and then clicked down at the bottom, then right-clicked so that I can delete all of these at once. Now I'm going to show you how you can go in and create a project using the ribbon embroidery that I think is really cute. So I had this idea that I could take the super designs and add ribbon to them to make some really cute, well, it's actually going to be a baby quilt because I'm having my first grandchild. But what I did was I went into the super designs. Let's go up to the top. And we have all these animals, and I thought these animals would make really, each one could be a nice block for a baby quilt. So I chose the polar bear first. And something that I had not realized when I first had the software is that we have these colored versions, but we also more often than not have a lined version. So these lined versions are perfect for adding ribbon embroidery to. Now, just so you know, some of our super designs have 3 versions. Like this cat has the this version, then it has a sepia version, and then it has a line version. So some of them have 3 versions, some of them have 2, and some of them have only 1. So we're going to get rid of these and go back. And go back to my polar bear. And because I'm in the 260 by 260 hoop, I want to kind of fill it up. So I'm going to make this, say, 160 millimeters in size. And I'm going to click the line version and click apply. And now I have, what happened is when I clicked, I think on line version, it went back to the default. So I could just pull this bigger because it is a super design, or I could have deleted it and gone back and chosen line and then my size. So let's just make them nice and big. So we have our cute polar bear. And then we would go into embellish here. And we're going to start drawing a line. Now, we have the 2 ways to draw lines like we did with the beads, where it could be a freehand line, it could be a point line. I still like to do the point line because it's easier to correct if you have an area that looks a little bit bare, and you'll see what I mean in a not as in polar bear, but as in empty. So I'm going to go to point line and show you what I mean. So I wouldn't pick white, even though it's a white polar bear. I stitched it out in white, but then you're not going to see the ribbon as well. So I'm going to just pick a light color, small ribbon. And what I could do is I could just do an outline of the bear, but what I want the ribbon to actually look like is fur. So I'm going to take it. It does take a few minutes to fill this up with ribbon embroidery. And the things to consider are you basically want the dots to be fairly close together so there's no empty areas. And you may want it to be kind of swirly to look like fur, or you may want it contour so that you see the contour of, say, his rump or the head. There's various design decisions that you can make. The first go through, you just want to fill it up really well. So you start by doing a left click, somewhere on the periphery, and you don't want to go over the line. And you're just going to keep filling these up. And if you feel like it's too bare, you can go back and click on a point and move it around. So I'm not going to do the whole bear because this would actually be kind of boring, I think, for you to sit here and watch this. But so you can get an idea. So the black outline is going to stitch out first, and the ribbons will stitch out next. So knowing that, as I fill this out with ribbon, I do not want to cover up the eyes or the nose, and I probably want to leave these lines visible as well. So I'm just going to keep doing that until I fill up the whole bear. And when I'm done doing that, I right click, and you'll see your ribbon design there. And then it's just a matter of stitching that out, and I'll show you what the end result looks like. Let's see, where did I put my little bear? So you can see he's very cute. I went back and made a line that was another outline of the bear a little bit bigger than his size, so that it kind of shadowed his outside perimeter. But I think that this would, if I get around to making a bunch of animal blocks like this, it would make such a cute wall hanging for the new baby's room, or even a baby quilt. It would have a lot of texture. And I just put a little hanging some ribbon there so that this little one could be hung up. So ribbon embroideries can also be used not to create so much texture, but they can be added to existing embroideries to give it a little bit more interest. So I'll show you something like that. And let's see, have any more questions? No. Okay, so if you have any questions, just go ahead and ask. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to go back and share my screen. And if there's anything I've gone over you want me to go over again, please let me know. So I'm going to delete this stuff. And I could go into some existing designs, insert some design that I want to add some ribbon or the other decorations to just jazz it up a bit. So let's find something here. I mean, we could take this umbrella, for instance, which is currently an applique. I believe that's what it looks like to me. No, it says embroidery. So we could take this and add ribbon to the outskirts, or we could add, say, some weather to this. I think that might be nice. So let's go to Ribbon, Super Design, Climate. Yeah, let's add a sun. And you don't want to make the ribbon designs too small, because you could see that you start to lose definition of what the object is. But I could have the ribbon sun there, and then I could go in and draw a line on the outskirts of this umbrella. I'm going to hit the shift key to make a sharp turn there. So this way you would have the pattern fill embroidery on the inside and the ribbon embroidery on the outside of the umbrella itself. And so we're going to right click. So now, I should have brought that over a little bit further, but you can see, you get the general idea. And let's see if I can go in here and change anything. I think not at this point. No, nothing quickly. So you can, put ribbon on top of other embroideries and to add to your designs. I could add some other things to the other decorations. So there's all sorts of things that you can do with the ribbon embroidery. You can, I'm trying to get all these to delete. What I did with the cat design that I wish I had here to show you. I have this cat ribbon embroidery, and I took, instead of making it just a ribbon embroidery, what I did first was I made some scrappy quilting together fabric for the background in black and white, and laid that down first and made basically an applique. So the ribbon embroidery is just straight stitches. So there you can, with your ribbon embroidery attachment, but with these designs, you can do the straight stitch first and tack down your applique fabric, then put the ribbon embroidery attachment on and tack down the ribbon itself. So I had this all scrappy. Then I went into the super design where there's a cat, and I just pulled the eyes out to put eyes on top here. I'll show you how you would do that. So you would go into Create. And the modules are much better integrated because I can go into digitizing now, and it will, whatever I do, it will be placed on this embroidery field without having to cut and paste. So I'm going to start a new design with no picture. And then I'm going to go up to Super Design, and I'm going to find a cat. So that would be in Animals. So let's go with this cat, and I'm going to want a line drawing. So I've got this cat here, and I could go in and do point select and select out the eyes, or I can actually go over here. It'd be easier. I'd find the eyes over here. Which it's going to probably take way too long to be interesting. So there's part of the eye. And here's part of the eye. And that's the nose. So I could copy these eyes, and then let's just copy just this little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. And I need the circle of the eye. And copy that. And so I would definitely take more time to do this, but you're kind of getting the idea. I would copy that, close this, and I could have, I could paste it on here, which I didn't do very well. But I don't want to take the time to do this, which is not part of the ribbon embroidery. So you can take apart other these super designs and save different parts, but it is a matter of finding it in the with all the other stitches and saving those parts and bringing them over. So let's see if there's any questions here. Okay, well, I think that I have pretty much covered the ribbon embroidery and the other decoration functions here. If there's any questions, I could go ahead and do that. Otherwise, we are pretty much done with our subject matter. I'll wait just a minute. We got just a few minutes before our hour is up. Okay, so I have a feeling, was I not sharing my screen when I was showing the cat? I'm not quite sure. Hopefully I was, but here is the cat. So any questions, just let me know. And otherwise, we are done for today. And I appreciate you joining me today. The ribbon embroidery area and the placing the decorations, these both the Embellish tab is a lot of fun to utilize to basically make your design a little bit fancier or a little bit more what you had in mind. So thank you for joining me, and I hope you all learned something. Let's see if there's any other. How do you center the design? I see. So can you load a clip art design and add ribbon embroidery to it? Yes, definitely. Thank you, Adeline, for that question. So what you would do is you would go in and let's get rid of this both of these cats. And go in and find a ribbon and a super design that we want to add. So your question was, again, let me see. Can you load a clip art design and add ribbon embroidery to it? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. Okay, so we are now, here's our super designs. And you could add a border around these designs that's ribbon, or you could pick something that is more, there's a central design with your super designs, and you want to make it fancier, or one of these corners maybe. Let's see what else. Find a good example. So say you had this leaf, and let's make it quite a bit bigger. And I could go in and I could add maybe some ribbon to these veins on the leaves to make it look more textured. So then I would go into embellish and again, draw my line. So I'd probably want like maybe a deep green, and I could go in. Now you're going to want to go back this way, because you don't want to have to keep cutting the ribbon. You want to do all the ribbon at once. And my husband has decided to mow the lawn, so I apologize if you're hearing the lawnmower starting. I'm going to have to give him a good talking to about not doing that when I'm doing a Facebook Live. But you don't want to discourage him from mowing the lawn, you know? That's the downside. So I would just keep going. And I would go back and make sure that they're not overlapping too much, but just to give you an idea of how you would go ahead and do this. Then I would right click. So it would give it definitely a more textured effect. So you can add ribbon to any existing design and make it your own, basically. And let's see if there was another question here I thought I saw. Are there any in the hoop designs? So are there any in the hoop designs is a question. The software has in the hoop designs, and you could certainly add a ribbon design to those designs. Our software has the whole, I might as well just show you. Let's go back to share. Okay, so we do have in the hoop designs, and okay, now I'm blanking on where they are. Create probably. Project in the hoop. Here we go. Let's get rid of our leaf. So you have these in the hoop designs that there's book covers, there's Christmas ornaments. Those might be really nice to add some ribbon to. Luggage tags. I mean, there are just so many different designs in here that are in the hoop designs. But say you wanted to do a Christmas ornament, and you could certainly add ribbon on one of the last steps. So let's find, say, snowflake. That looks like that would be nice with ribbon. So we click on OK. And so here's our Christmas ornament. You could certainly go in and go to embellish. You'd want to do this as the very last step and do draw a line. And you're probably, I would put it as a different color than white, but I'd probably use, so I could see it on the screen, but I would probably use white ribbon to do this. And then you're just going to go in and trace over your snowflake, if that's what you're looking for, for the ribbon to go like that. It's just a matter of putting enough dots in there and tracing over the previous design, and the fact that it is the ribbon is sort of wide, it's going to cover up that design. So you would just take your time, and then you would have ribbon that went over the other design. And if for some reason it didn't stitch out well because of the thickness of these stitches, you could go into modify and take out those stitches altogether and make your own design inside of the in the hoop project. So that's another thing that you could do. If this it looks like these stitches are satin stitches, and it may be that they're very thick and the ribbon doesn't look so good on top of them. But if you remove them, then let's see, let's go over here. Now we'd go into modify and remove these stitches. But I would stitch it out first and see how it did. And it may very well work just fine with stitching the ribbon over these stitches. So you've got all of these different in the hoop projects that you could make into ribbon embroideries. So, book covers, pouches, key rings, all sorts of things. Okay, let's see if we have, are there any in the hoop designs? I got that question. Let's see if I have any other questions. Okay, so we're coming down basically to the end of the class. And let me get out of that screen. So I just want to let you know that the next MySewnet Facebook Live is October 6th, and it's edge to edge and other quilt designs in digitizing. So it sounds like a real fun class to me. So I'm so happy that you joined me today. And if there are any questions after we end the session today, I will check back over the next week to see if there are any unanswered questions and answer them. And just want to thank you for joining me today. And I hope you all learned something, got inspired, and will start using the Embellish tab. So happy sewing.